What we're here to do today is to show you a simple 4-step process using Wipe New that will allow you to take an old beat down hood like this and restore it to a factory fresh finish. Okay, the first order of business whenever you attack a project like this is you want to remove as much of this dead material as possible. On an old tractor trailer hood, you've got a combination of oxidized paint, you've got ingrained dirt from diesel soot, from just the grime that's accumulated going down the road. It's imperative that you remove this as efficiently and as completely as possible. The way we're going to do this is a wet bait procedure using an alkaline based cleaner and scrub brushes and just good old-fashioned elbow grease. It's very, very simple, but it's the most efficient way to get down to a virgin surface before you bring the vehicle into your shop for final prep. If you look at your truck and you don't have peel and clear coat and there's still basically pigmentation left in the paint, then with enough work you can actually expose that surface. And then what we'll do at that point is apply Wipe New, and it's going to seal that finish and protect it, and you won't have to worry about the environmental degradation that took place previously. It'll just be simple soap and water to maintain it. Okay, what we've got here, we've got a garden sprayer. This is the most efficient way to apply the cleaning solution to the paint. We're doing about a 4-to-1 dilution on this. This is a really strong alkaline-based truck wash. Okay, in a perfect scenario, what you want to do is use this alkaline-based chemical, preferably in a shaded area with the paint ambient temperature. What that does is it allows the chemical time to actually do its work without being evaporated up into the sky. You can do it in the sun, but try to time your applications if you have to do it in the direct sunlight for early morning or late afternoon when the temperatures are down. One of the things you want to keep in mind too is don't try to cover too big an area. If you're working as a 2-man crew, you can coat dozens of square feet at a time with this chemical, but what you want to try to do is look at your truck and break it down into manageable segments as far as what you want to clean. If you allow that chemical to dry too much, the dirt that you're trying to basically break loose and release from the surface will get drawn back in because you're dealing with a very porous surface. So work in sections that you can manage to keep wet and scrub and amply rinse off before it starts to dry. During this part of the procedure, you can see that what we're trying to do is aggressively scrub. The chemical is breaking down the oxidation, the ingrained dirt, the diesel soot, but it takes a certain amount of hand work, and you can see that he's working that pretty aggressively. You're going to want to scrub that, especially down in the nooks and crannies, as thoroughly as possible. You can see all the dirt coming off of that. On a particularly soiled truck like this, the first step might just be to get the top layer of dirt off. You don't know how clean it is until you've had a chance to rinse it and look at it, but we find quite often that it takes 2 wash steps like this to get this down to virgin material, to get it ready for literally final wipe down and coating. So as you're rinsing it down, you're assessing the condition of the paint. Okay, a couple of things we want to point out. We've just gone through our first scrub. There's going to be another one to come, but you can see some dark areas that run through the paint here. What's happened is, in the past, some aggressive buffing has actually removed the paint down to where you're almost getting to gel coat again. You see a dark stripe here, and along the edge of that contour. And this is just where, through heavy compounding, you've actually whittled away the paint. This is actually a good time to talk about the benefits of Air product. If you apply it to a new truck, you don't have to go through compounding and buffing, which will spare your paint. You'll actually get more lifespan out of it. And if you have an older truck that still has good integrity to the paint, you'll only go through this process one time. And again, it'll extend the lifespan of your paint because you don't have to come back with abrasive cleaners to make the truck shine. If you take your time in the wet bag, make sure that all these little small nooks and crannies are completely clean. You're going to get a much better result once you go to coat it. You can certainly clean these inside in your dry bag, but we're always trying to stress now's the time to get all of the cleaning done that you possibly can, because the wet bay is the most efficient area for doing this kind of work. It'll give you some visual feedback as to whether you've cleaned it enough. You can see on this second go around, the suds that are coming off the truck aren't as black and heavily discolored by dirt. We've addressed all the heavy oxidation with our alkaline wash. What you want to look for, and you can see the contrast between this side and this side, it's a visual and it's also a feel type thing, but you can see we've removed all the ingrained dirt. The next thing you want to do is kind of run your hand across the surface. What you want to go for is number one, look at your hand, make sure no chalky residue is coming off at this point. If it is, that means that you haven't cleaned deeply enough. And you also want to go for how smooth this is feeling. You know, a lot of times there'll still be some residual dirt that's in the top surface of the paint. If it does feel a little pebbly to the touch, at that point you can take just a little bit of water with a squirt bottle and you just want to lightly wet sand. This is a product called 3M Trizact. It's a 3000 grit paper, and what that'll do is it'll dislodge the remaining ingrained dirt so that when you coat, you have a really nice smooth finish. In this case, I think this surface has probably been prepped to the point where it's almost pristine. We don't need to sand it, and we really don't want to at this point, again, because we do have some issues with where it's been buffed before. There's not a lot of paint, so we don't want to take any more paint off this surface than is necessary. We're in the stage we call final wipe down. It serves a couple of different purposes. The first one is you want to make sure that you've removed any residual skin oils, any silicones, any diesel fuel remnants that might be left on the surface that could interfere with Wipe New. You want to make sure that those are done. And the other purpose of it is it actually will drive any residual moisture that's in the gel coat out. Gel coat is porous. There will be a certain amount of moisture, especially depending on the time of the year and the humidity levels present in this gel coat. You want that out of there so it doesn't interfere with the application. All right, in the interest of conserving material, what we do when we actually start to coat a truck is it really isn't efficient to carry one of these things around. They're heavy. It's got a big opening on the mouth. It's easy to spill. You don't want to have your product on the ground. So, you can choose your bottle, but ideally something in the 8-ounce range that you can put into a pocket. Ideally, when you're coating a gel-coated hood, these are very, very thirsty surfaces. What we typically try to do is get this rag, we call it super saturated. Literally, if it's held up by its corner, it's going to drip. One of the things you want to keep in mind is figuring out good starting and stopping points. What he's about to do is actually coat to this body contour line all the way across, and then you'll see him come in and tie in the side of the hood. The thing that you want to keep in mind as you're doing this is try not to lift the rag in the middle of the surface, and make your transitions from one pass to the next kind of slow so the product has a chance to flow into itself, and you're going to see him actually doing that now. Go ahead. Perfect. As soon as you get up there, just get load it up. Yeah. As you're coating, one of the telltale signs that you'll get from a feel standpoint as to whether you need to reapply more chemical is you're going to feel the rag actually start to grab the surface. That's telling you that the actual gel coat has drawn out a lot of your Wipe New. So reapply at that point. You don't want to leave yourself short. Again, this is a very thirsty surface. If you apply too little, you'll actually come back with a dry spot once it starts to cure.